Hello, this is Astro Breeze Carrie, and welcome to our weekly transits, our weekly astrological weather report. And this week, our moon area, our moon is moving in through the signs of Aries, Taurus, Gemini, and Cancer. So look to your chart where those are, or if you have any signs in those areas. That's the start of the zodiac. It kicks it off. So those four signs, think about it, they're the most kind of pure energy in the most simplistic ways of all the elements. I'm not sure if I said that good, but they were the first, Aries is the first sign, the first energy to embody that I am here. And then Taurus is, I now need security. And then Gemini, I want to communicate. And then Cancer, I want my roots or my home. So those are the first kind of primal pure energies before those elements start to duplicate, which then the next sign after Cancer, then it would go into Leo, which is the next fire sign. So it starts over again, those elements: fire, earth, air, water, fire, earth, air, water. In each area, or each of those groups of elements gets a little bit more complex as it goes along. But anyway, that's interesting when we kind of have that, roll around like that way. So anyway, just note that. And whenever the moon is in Aries, it's a little bit more aggressive. It's a little bit more sharp. It's more, let's get it done. Let's do it. I don't want to waste time. And it could be also happy and funny. Aries is funny. It could be more laughable, liking humor. Aries is, driven. You could be more driven. You could be sharper in words. You could pay less attention to your feelings when the moon's in Aries. And today, it's, you can see, what I set this for, 3 o'clock Eastern time, and the moon's barely, it's barely into a third into the sign of Aries. So interesting. We can see here that later, probably tomorrow actually, because it's like getting later here, late tonight. But actually, let me just look. Let me go on some hours for you, and we can see the moon. It's interesting because it's going to cross the North Node. Let's just go on into tomorrow afternoon, and let's just watch that moon roll around. You can see, let's see, Wednesday, 6 in the morning Eastern time. It's getting closer, so we know in a couple hours it will be right on the moon. And it's about the next day. Oh, it already passed it. So let's just get it where it's right on it. Go back a little bit. There we go. I was trying to get it to that 19. Probably went too fast, but you can see where it's right on the North Node. So North Node is energy coming in. It's material aims. So maybe getting your, this next day, today and tomorrow, whatever you're listening to this, Tuesday, Wednesday, getting your emotions out of the way to line up maybe with some of your projected, where do you want to go? This is globally, everybody. We have that drive and energy of the moon in Aries crossing over that North Node spot in Aries. So it's going to bring more energy into that area, flooding us all with a little bit more focus on the material gain, or where energy comes in, or getting the emotions out of the way, putting it that way, getting on to things. This is like, okay, I got to pay that Christmas bill off, or I got to get going on my loan, or I got to get going on my diet, or I got to just, bite the bullet. I can't have that cake. I've got to, exercise. These pounds are not good. I've got to this, that, and the other, whatever it is. Getting a little bit more, focused into the material realm. I got to get my plans in order. I got to get my things going. That energy is coming through. But then it's going to cross over that, the North Node, that energy of influx, things coming in. And then moon's going to be heading toward a conjunction with Jupiter. You can see right here, Jupiter in Taurus. Moon likes to be in Taurus. It's a much nicer place for the moon. It's exalted. If it can't be home in Cancer, then it's going to be at its best friend's house in Taurus. So the moon will gain a little bit more stability. So put some plans into action, and then they'll take more root. when the moon moves into Taurus. All right, so let me flip us back to actually AM. Let's just get like midday. The sun's up here, you can see it easier, and then go to the days. All right, so Wednesday, looking at Wednesday, and we kind of still into some moon themes, but let's look around at some of the other planets and see what we got going on here. Big thing we've got coming on into this week. We've got, you can see the sun at the end of Capricorn, and we know it's going to go over Pluto at the very end of Capricorn. Who's going to get into the next sign first? Stay tuned. So we have that lining up. We've got the moon making, the last day and a half, 2 days, the moon's going to be making squares to all of this Capricorn stuff. We know those are both cardinal signs, Aries, cardinal. So the moon is dictating our feelings. So we've got a little bit more of an aggression, maybe, getting things done. I got to get going on this, get out of my way. And if it's making a square over to Mercury, you could, we have feelings in words or feelings in mind in conflict. Moon, would rather be in the earth sign, and then Mercury probably, well, Mercury goes both ways. I don't want to say that. But Mercury would feel good also being in Aries. But anyway, it's going to conflict. See, the moon earlier, when it was early Aries, we had the conflict here with Mercury, and then Mars. See how close they get together. So that could be because the moon is in an aggressive sign, and it's squaring over to mental Mercury and driven Mars. You could be a little ruthless. Somebody could be a little ruthless to you. You could say hurtful things. You can say, you could not maybe consider the feelings of others because of the moon is not being sensitive. So watch that. Everybody's got to watch that, today into tomorrow, Wednesday, and then the moon will move past that. And then you can see the moon is here 22 degrees. It's going to be then making a square over to the sun and Pluto. So, as we go through, this is a 2 o'clock Wednesday, depending on where you are in the world, adjust this accordingly. But then, what that influence, you have then the moon squaring that. Moon squaring the sun. Sun is your ego and your feelings. And then the moon in Aries is this kind of, it could be brusque. You could be very driven, be very focused, but be very careful that you don't step on toes to get your way, that you're not insensitive. So that's kind of that. But then, it'll go over Pluto. So that's where it's going to come back and bite you if you're not paying attention. All right, so let's move on. Anything else that day? Let's see. There's like this kind of interesting push-pull, like we've got some Venus, Saturn kind of issues, but we'll get there. So coming into Thursday, things pick up the pace and get a little bit busier. So again, we've got now the moon is in Taurus. Now look at here. Oh, I'm glad it's lined up. And it's going to exactly conjunct Jupiter. So moon feeling, Taurus, earthy, security, going over Jupiter in stable Taurus. Well, this could be overspending, overdoing it, feeling good about something, moon in Taurus, or maybe securing your future, buying things that are important. But this is just be careful because Jupiter makes things larger. It could also be an overindulgence, and the feeling is like, oh yeah, I'll have that pie. I can eat the whole thing. It's gonna be my last one before I go on my diet. That's the kind of thinking or that kind of compromise that makes no sense. It's like maybe have one bite, but that kind of thinking is not rational. So that's the danger of that. But then the moon will cross over that, and then it will. This is kind of interesting as it gets closer to Uranus. Uranus, the planet of instability, in stable Taurus, and then when the moon kind of triggers that, it could make, how can I say it? We know that something's going to be unstable. We know something is up. We feel it coming. It's like expect the unexpected. There we go. That's the right way to say it. Expect the unexpected. So this is Thursday. So Thursday coming into Friday, depending on where you are in the world. All right. So that a lot of moon issues this week. Because the moon sometimes acts as a trigger. But now the moon in Taurus, when it gets, here, it's going to be trining. You can see it's like just trined over to Mercury. When it was at 5 degrees. So Thursday, moon then will now go from the aggravating kind of aggressiveness it had in Aries to nicer aspects. So we got, it's going to be there's a little push-pull week, push-pull, push-pull. So the moon feelings is in nice, happy, content, Taurus, earthy, security driven, wanting those things that make it more secure. Going over Mercury, so we'll be able to maybe communicate that to ourselves and others. And then when it joins up with Mars, that when it trines over to Mars at that 10 degrees, it triggers some energy toward putting into action what you want. And then it'll go on, and then it'll cross over, it'll conjunct Uranus, which will be that expecting the unexpected. But something really nice after that happens, after the moon conjuncts Uranus, it's kind of volatile, but from that time, when it's done with that, after that time, and let's just look East Coast when that is, and you can adjust it, let's go hours, because there's an important time between that and when the moon goes into Gemini that is great for taking advantage of opportunities. But let me get there. Hold on a second. Let's see. One that's actually at moon. It's to 19 degrees. 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18, 19. Okay. So it's about 1 in the afternoon on Friday that the moon passes over Uranus. Okay, so once that's done, until it enters the next sign of Gemini, that's an opportune time. So it's highly productive, and it's an excellent time to invest in what you want to grow and put energy into. So we've got about a day and a half-ish here. Friday afternoon, and as it comes in, as soon as that's done, depending on where you're at, it's going to be kind of in that zone where you can take advantage of stuff before it moves into the next sign. It's not really like a void, of course, because it's be making other aspects to other things. Especially it will, as it gets on, you'll see, and we're going to get to this up here in just a second, it will make nice trines to the Sun and Pluto. Now, bringing your attention up to this, and I'm still on hours, good. So on Friday, this is kind of an interesting thing. We've had Pluto back and forth, and it's going to go back and forth one more time before it settles in Aquarius, but it's about to move into Aquarius. Look at 29 degrees, 57 minutes. And here's the Sun, 29 degrees, 8 minutes. So let's just see what happens. Keep your eyes on this, and you'll see it go around the chart as I move hour by hour. Still at 29, 24. I'm looking at this degree right here, 26. It says 29 and 26, and here's 58. So just check this out. This is kind of cool. And once I get it, I'll explain it a little bit more. So we're at 36, 39, 44, 47, 49, 52, 54, 57. Look at that. And then Pluto moved to 59. Oh God, the suspense is killing me. Look at both. Okay, so 9 in the morning on Saturday, they're both at 29:59. Now, the Sun goes over Pluto every year, right? It crosses everything in its annual orbit. So right here on this day that we've got the Sun over Pluto, and they're in the last time. I think we talked about this last time. It's the last time for quite a while, 200 and some years before it will pass over Pluto at the 29th degree of Capricorn. So what does this mean? We know that Pluto has brought back and forth, it's in Capricorn, ruled by Saturn. The part of Saturn of Capricorn is the establishment, the rules. You play by this game. Um, Government, establishment, structure. And then it moves into Aquarius, which is also a Saturn ruled sign, although we've given the outer planets different rulership. But still, I like this older astrology. It makes way more sense. I mean, you can say the outer planets could be co-rulers on some of that, fine, but we're just going to stay this with today. Saturn is the ruler of Aquarius, and that part of Saturn is more rebellious. It's like, okay, I need to take down this structure. This is too rigid. We need to expand. We need to enlighten things. We need to, not have things toward the government. We need to have things more toward the populace, toward the people. So we're at that crux, and nobody can deny that. I mean, you talk to any 3 to 5-year-old and every 90-some-year-old, and everybody knows that there's this little authoritarian thing, the structure that's eroding, this something that's changing. And at the same time, Pluto in Aquarius is highly indicative of technology. Yeah, I mean, there's good and bad. It's a two-edged sword. You've got to learn the art of swordsmanship to wield it correctly. Also cut yourself. So there is a happy medium, but when something changes abruptly, we're going to get like a flip-flop. We're going to have a rush of energy this way, and then it's going to come back, and then this way, and it makes up, it's very unstable when things are changing signs. So what's going to happen? Here, look. All right. Wow. Look at the sun enters first. I was worried about it. I kind of like the sun leading. The sun is the center of our solar system, of what we know. It gives life to everything. Without the sun, there would be no life here. So the sun is taking the lead. The sun goes over Pluto. And then let's just look. Where does Pluto go? How many hours later? Maybe it's the next day. Let's see. No. Nope, it's right here. It's at 8 in the evening Eastern Standard Time that it finally moves into Aquarius. But we're feeling it. I mean, it's not like that time, bing, it happens. It's like it's already ingressing in there. We're already feeling this. And you just take a look at the world events. I mean, just take a look at what happened at the Iowa caucus for President Trump. I mean, just look at this. I think it was Reagan that won that by 12 points, and that was huge. But for him to win this by 51 points, that's tremendously huge. That is the populace talking. So we're going to see and hear all kinds of pushback, and I'm not going one way or the other. I'm just pointing out an astrological fact. This kind of stuff is unheard of unless you have these types of transits happening. But even though Pluto wasn't in there yet, it's close enough for here on Earth. When you try to line that stuff out in space, wow, I mean, you got big bodies and lots of light years away. But nonetheless, we still use some marker because this is true for us here on the planet, our feet on Gaia. So we're seeing this kind of action, and I can't remember the guy's name that won, and I think it was Argentina. Oh, my brain's failing me about that kind of stuff. Just recently, another voice of the populace. So this is not just the United States, even though the United States is going through, Pluto return. So it's even worse. Any kind of thing like that is going to be way more impacting. But this is happening worldwide. So we're going to make a big shift here. And now something else very interesting. These two, planets, the Sun and Pluto, were in Capricorn, an earth sign, and now they're moving into an air sign. And interesting, on this day, the moon is in an air sign, so it's kind of nice that we've got a moon trining Sun and Pluto as they ingress into the new sign. I don't know. To me, that's kind of a hopeful energy, even though it's not going to be really nice, with Jupiter and Uranus anymore. They're going to be in, you know, nothing in common. An inconjunct, a quincunx, because we have a fixed, and we have no. I'm sorry. It's moving into a square. What am I talking about? It's fixed and it's fixed. Not looking, thinking right now. So this is a fixed sign. Always check your say out loud or in your head what it is. Like, okay, this is fixed, and oh, this is fixed. Oh, that means it's a square. It was in it was in a trine, because these were trines are 120 degrees apart. Then when it was in Capricorn, it was the sun, but then it took a while for Pluto. But nonetheless, it was by element. It was trine to these. Now, it's going to be square. So, but these two will move fairly quickly, and they'll move into Jupiter will move into Gemini this year, and that will start to, that air sign, just like the moon here, will give us a trine over to Pluto. Sun will have moved on. All right, then we'll see that same with Uranus, but we'll talk about that another time. But anyway, we have the moon ushering them in. That emotional body is in that air sign. So look and see where, if you have air signs that are prominent in your chart, especially, early degrees Gemini, or early degrees Aquarius, or Libra, because that's the missing one that would be trining both. If you got things at those degrees, 0 degrees Libra, or early, 1, 2, 3, or, and then the moon might trigger some of that for you, the trines. Or then look for other squares, oppositions, of course, as well. But I was just talking about the moon here. All right, so what else? This is kind of a busy day. We also have, let's go back here, because we were looking at, I wanted to go a couple other things. A couple things I wanted to mention on Thursday, but I had to follow that sun because it was interesting. So back to Thursday, because it was a very busy day. You could see Mercury right over here, 5 degrees, making a sextile. Sure, earlier it was 4 degrees, but anyway, over here to Saturn, because we have Earth, and then we have a water. So Earth and water, there's one sign in between, that's 60 degrees. All right, and then we also have Saturn making a sextile over to Uranus. I'm sorry, Jupiter. God. Over to Jupiter. So Saturn is in the middle. It would be like the midpoint almost of these two. So these, we have Mercury and Jupiter making a nice trine, because they're Earth to Earth. So Mercury, Jupiter, expand our thinking, expand our money, expand our communications, communications about solid, real things. Mercury there in Capricorn is going to be like, being accountable for things. And then we're dealing with Taurus issues, security. And Capricorn, they get along really well. So this could be accounting for things, accounting for what you want, communicating what you want, saying what you want, expanding what you want, expanding your security, talking about expanding your security. And then as it gets closer, they get closer to Mars, then we have that entering the picture with the drive and energy and aggression to do this. But again, watch for stepping on people, being insensitive, and not considering anyone else. All right, we saw the moon going over Jupiter. We talked about that, expanding, the feelings. As that goes over, trines these two. So that's very important. This is a very interesting lead up to the sun and Pluto changing signs the same day. Okay, and then we see just that Mercury and Mars are in this, more stable element, while the sun is and Pluto are changing And then Mars, I think we talked about this last week, is exalted in Capricorn. Mars likes to be there. It gets done what it couldn't do when, it's in Aries. When it's in Aries, it just starts the game. Hey, gentlemen, bow, you bow, ready, fight begin, go! So that gets the spark going. But then when it gets to Capricorn, it can finish up and tie end and be the executive and be the good CEO kind of energy. So that's how I like to think about that. Venus over here, squaring, it's still in a mutable mutable sign, and it's going to be squaring mutable Neptune. So what we want, that energy of making stuff happen might be kind of squared to our fantasy. It might be bringing it down to reality because we had that stuff with Saturn I told you about in the middle there, between Mercury and Jupiter. And then we got the moon and we got Mars. It's like in the whole mess. If you can see, it's like, both of these are getting pretty, close. I mean, Mars is already past it, but it's still an orb, right? Still an orb. And then these over here too. This stuff over to here. So this is all involving Saturn, which is, as long as you're paying attention to detail, planning, making lists, notes, putting things in. Don't just fly off the seat of your pants on this one. This is like, you got to write things down. You got to plan. You got to make calls. You got to organize. Saturn will be more in your favor. It's not less frilly willy-nilly. It's, more putting that structure to work. It's where the rubber meets the road. And unless you plan and you communicate your plans, things aren't going to happen. All right, so that's part of the Venus Neptune, that there could be some disillusion if you don't do your planning right, if you don't pay attention to that kind of stuff. And like I said, don't step on other people to get where you're going. And there's some involvement with Chiron, which I don't really get into a lot because it's just too much already. It's like I'm giving you a week and I try to keep it around 15 minutes. Sometimes it goes a little longer. We just bring in more things to get confused on. But nonetheless, I just want to mention that with Chiron, the wounded healer, there could be some chances to make amends, to bring some energy to heal some things, but be careful about forcing your way, because you could say things that may do more harm than good. When in all doubt, keep your mouth shut. All right, what else is going on here? We said the moon stuff. We're going over. Yeah, we talked about this going. This is interesting that the moon up here in Taurus, very stable, going over an unstable planet. That's what I mean to expect the unexpected here. Okay, so we talked about that. We talked about the opportune period. So late in the day on Thursday till when the moon moves into Gemini, like on, when's it moving to Gemini? Late Saturday. So that could be an opportune time to put some plans into action to make things actually work for you. Invest in something you want to grow. All right, so we talked about that. Friday, talk a little bit about anything I didn't tell you about now. Oh, Mercury, yeah, we talked about Mercury trining, Jupiter, and we talked about that. Okay, that's good. All right, so Saturday, and then we talked about the Sun and Pluto moving, changing signs. It's a big deal. And then the moon will trine Pluto and the Sun as well. See, as they move in, you can see the moon now is in Gemini, and 2 hours. When they move in there, you can actually say, I showed you that a minute ago, but I just wanted to point it out again because that's kind of a good, sort of like good luck. It's like getting acknowledgement for it. All right, what else do we got going on here? Okay, so we know that the sun goes over Pluto, moon trines them. That's nice. Then okay, we got that. We talk about the air signs. Oh, and then the moon here, though, in mutable Gemini, will square Saturn in mutable Pisces. Okay, so mutable Pisces. See the moon here when it was at 5 degrees. So on Saturday, we could have a little bit of anything tangles with a square or something to Saturn, a little sour or dour mood, maybe. So just realize that this will pass quickly. It's here 8 in the evening, East Coast, so probably it was like an hour before, so like 7 East Coast time. So it could be just like a little bit of seriousness or serious thoughts or a little moodiness, maybe a little depression even, but don't buy into it. Stay hydrated, drink water, take some deep breaths, and give it a couple hours and it'll pass. Get distracted with something and it will pass. But nonetheless, sometimes these little things get in and just muddy the water a little bit. All right, so we talked about that, and that happened, and let's go. We'll go with that. And now we move on to Sunday. Not a real. Most of the stuff was the day before Saturday, so things are kind of taking effect. I mean, we got the moon, making the quincunx over to Mercury and Mars. So we could have, again, more of the little feeling, maybe some second guessing or something. So if you're careful in how you say things, then you just breeze through this, the second guessing and that won't bother you so much. And then it also will sextile Chiron. So there could again be, maybe using words not correctly. So maybe it'd be good to keep your mouth shut on Sunday about stuff. Something else I also wanted to point out, sometimes there's, and I was going to say this, I was going to show you with the Venus, but I'll show it another time. I don't want to confuse you, but there's some aspects coming up. And sometimes when like you get a moon movement, we go from a square at 90 degrees, right? And then it goes to a trine at 120 degrees. And then if we go, I just wanted to mention that there's, a square is 90, so a half a square would be 45. So if we, I don't even say this to you without confusing you too much, as the moon is moving, sometimes it's in a trine, and then it goes 15 more degrees, not even a whole sign, it's half a sign. So that turns into, 120 plus 15 is 135. That's a square and a half. So sometimes it's like, it's all nice trine, and then it goes it could be still in that sign, but it goes 15 more degrees, and then it's at that 135 degree weird square and a half, square and a half, square, and then you could get that little bit of irritation, and then it goes 15 more degrees, and then it hits that quincunx, that 150 degree angle. So this is sometimes interesting. I wanted to point this out after like the moon makes a trine to something, because sometimes this is where the mood gets sour. It's moon, it's like, oh yeah, nice trine, yeah. But like so many hours later, 6 hours, 12 hours, just depending on, I have to work out the math on that. But, and then as the moon is moving there, then it will go into that odd square and a half. And then when it moves all the way and changes it to sign to the next one that it was in trine with, okay, then it goes to the next one, then it's in that 150 degree one. So you could get some suck time after a nice something, the moon trining something. And so it's at that degree, and then all of a sudden it slips into those two. Yuck. Just note that, because the moon moves fast, and if you're in a rotten mood or foul mood or something, really try to distract yourself, like after some of these nice trine moons, like, oh yay, and then it'll suck then after the next half a day before it moves on. So just wanted to just say that about some of those degrees. And then the moon moves, another 30 degrees, and then it goes into the opposition, and then a 30 again, and it's back to that quincunx. So it's like, sometimes there's just some sour days, or those few signs, that 1 week where it's done that. It's gone from the nice trine, and then now it's going to go to the suck degrees, and then back out again. So yeah, it's just good to know. All right, wrap it up here. Coming into Monday, because we have some interesting stuff for the end of the month. But I like to do a week at a time because it gets confusing. Then the moon moves into Cancer. You see here, and it takes on, from that flighty Gemini kind of busy mind, collection data, all that kind of stuff, to nurturing homey roots, bonding Cancer. So this is kind of a nice start to maybe to next week. But here you'll notice that we got Cancer, and then it's going to be in a not a good um, aspect to the moon and I mean, sorry, to the sun and Pluto. This is one of the things I was talking about now. So we can see here it's approaching that 150 degrees. It's like exact, almost, when it moves one more degree to the sun. So we could get some of this mood stuff here coming into the beginning part of next week, and then it will, it does that first to Pluto and then to Sun, and then it'll move past that stuff. But we could get a little funky stuff right there. But other than that, our big events was kind of letting the sign change, the Sun into Aquarius, go walking together with Pluto into Aquarius. So we could see some really big, I don't know, technology drop. I hope in a good way rather than anything like these dang digital credit scores and funky currency and devaluation of money and all that stuff could definitely be happening because we have this ultra Aquarian stuff. And then we could beginning to see that, but then we could see it more when Uranus and Jupiter eventually will move into busy Gemini. We're going to have Jupiter first, and then Uranus will walk in there. So that will be very interesting time, which we'll get to in the future. But you have to see astrology like in the whole totalitarian part of it, the whole thing. We zoom out and we kind of see where things are going, and we get the energies of where things are going, and then we zoom back in, and we can get kind of our daily stuff into the daily things with the moon. And then we move back and we see the bigger energies of things. And we start to look at cycles. We know that Jupiter is like a 12-year cycle. Uranus is an 84-year cycle that goes, all the way around. But we see these two are going to meet up. Jupiter is faster moving, so it's going to have a conjunction here with crazy Uranus. And what will that be like? What will that bring? We'll get to that. But you can see this starting to be set up. And we can see Neptune at the end of Pisces, and it's going to move into Aries. It's probably not the best place for it. All the stuff that I've ever researched about Neptune and Aries is always conflict. It starts out with war and conflict. And we've talked a lot about how some of the aspects where we're moving into is like the Civil War. So we're starting to see the powers that be push civil war. We're seeing aspects that was like World War II, and we're seeing that those types of things happen. We're kind of almost at the brink of World War III. And then we're also seeing aspects like the American Revolution. So we've got all of those things in the mix. So it's very, very, very important to keep our cool, to love one another, see through the differences, try to get past them, because we're being fed a lot of upset and lies that don't need to be there. Yeah. I'll get off my soapbox about it, but you can see how this stuff starts to work astrologically, and we get the big picture. And I think it helps give us the big picture. It's like if you're driving down a mountain, you want to know the weather, or up a mountain or through. It's like, I want to know if it's going to snow. Do I have to have good tires? Is it good driving? Is the snow bad? Is it mushy? Is it raining? What's the visibility like? So I can pay attention to how I'm moving. I'm not going to just go wham bam down a mountain. These things are precarious. So it's good to know. That's the way I look at it. All right, hope you enjoyed that, and we'll see you all next week.